Does the footballing world really care about kicking homophobia out? If Wales qualify for the 2022 World Cup, it will be a dream come true for James Brinning.As. As a long-standing fan of the national team, Brinning would like nothing more than to see Gareth Bale, Ramsey and company make it to international football's biggest tournament. This World Cup is open for everybody. However, the decision made by FIFA to host the tournament in a nation where LGBTQ+ fans potentially do not feel welcome is just one aspect of a wider problem facing football right now, in which LGBTQ+ supporters feel that homophobia is on the rise within the sport, and the ruling bodies of the game aren't doing enough to address it. Qatar is committed to ensuring that everyone will be able to enjoy the tournament in a safe and welcoming environment, to building bridges of cultural understanding, and to creating an inclusive experience for all participants, attendees and local communities, including from the LGBTQ+ community, the spokesperson added.
FIFA is confident that all necessary measures will be in place for LGBTQ+ fans and allies to enjoy the tournament in a welcoming and safe environment, just as everyone else. Brinning's concerns are not just limited to football's most prestigious occasion. In the UK, Brinning also points to the deeply disheartening experience of hearing homophobic chants sung by fellow fans of the same club. It just takes away from the camaraderie that you're supposed to share with your fellow fans. The chant Brinning refers to is a derogatory song that's deemed deeply offensive to the LGBTQ+ community and which has been used for years to mock Chelsea. In a statement on the subject of discriminatory abuse at the start of the new season, Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters said, "I think we've made it very clear that tackling discrimination is a priority for the Premier League, and so have all of our clubs. We've introduced a league-wide ban. So if you are caught, then you'll be banned from not just your own club but all other Premier League clubs as well. And with fans coming back, we're working with stewards to help them to deal with some of these issues should they arise." Masters also said that the Premier League are working with fan groups, with fans, to help fund some fan education so people can fully understand the impact of discriminatory abuse. Are football's ruling bodies really trying to eradicate homophobia? It found that almost a third of all abuse directed towards players was homophobic. On June 23, Germany faced Hungary in a game that was coded in an atmosphere of tension and deep discomfort as LGBTQ+ activists made clear their concerns about not feeling especially welcome at the clash. The request was made in solidarity with Hungary's LGBTQ+ community, following the introduction in the summer of legislation in the country that banned any material in schools that authorities believe to be guilty of promoting homosexuality or gender change. The legislation is one of a string of divisive policies championed by Hungarian leader Viktor Orbán, a hardline nationalist who has previously railed against LGBTQ people and immigrants. "It's not about homosexuals, it's about the kids and the parents," said Orbán in June of the legislation. UEFA declined Ryder's request and issued a statement claiming that the decision was due to its political context, as it reminded the world that the body itself is a politically and religiously neutral organization. All of this has led LGBTQ+ football fans, clubs, and players to ask, does the footballing world care about eradicating homophobia from the game? Lou Englefield, director of Pride Sports and a key leader in the global Football v Homophobia campaign, thinks there is much more that football's governing bodies could be doing to combat this kind of discrimination. And then they didn't stand by the community when they needed to, and they allowed nations which are fostering increasingly homophobic sentiment to run riot. And this actually directly opposed UEFA's principles of protecting and upholding human rights. Ahead of the Euros, for example, several LGBTQ+ football organizations and initiatives put forward a letter to UEFA to express our worries about the homophobic rhetoric and environments that could be found in some of the host nations, Englefield said. And we never received a reply. To this day, we still haven't received any acknowledgement of the letter. To Englefield, UEFA's lack of response to this letter indicates a failure on their part to protect LGBTQ+ fans. We know that there are complications when it comes to hosting major footballing events in nations with their own legislation and attitudes towards LGBTQ+ rights, she said. As for the ways to deal with the task of ensuring LGBTQ+ football fans feel safe and welcome at matches held in environments that are home to stringent homophobia, Englefield is quick to suggest what UEFA and FIFA could and should do. and those houses held workshops and showed informative films intended to encourage solidarity with LGBTQ+ people and to raise awareness of the plight that LGBTQ+ people so often face in Russia. It allowed us to use the tournament to highlight the fact that LGBTQ+ people exist in football and to encourage allyship. Englefield was disappointed that, when Euro 2020 matches were held in nations where homophobic sentiment can be found in almost every corner, there were no similar diversity houses or initiatives designed to support LGBTQ+ football fans established by UEFA. Rory McGrath is a professor of sociology at Solent University, in Southampton, whose work revolves around LGBTQ+ identity in football, acceptance of homosexuality amongst football fans, anti-discrimination policy in sports media. Representation. The Rainbow Laces campaign only lasts for a few weeks at the start of the season, so what then? Players aren't wearing rainbow armbands all year round. What happens to visibility for LGBTQ+ football fans when it isn't Pride? McGrath thinks more should be done to combat homophobia in the sport at all times of the year, not just when we celebrate the community in certain months. He says that the problem lies in part with another of football's major governing bodies, too, and its tendency to react to social issues, rather than take the lead on them. The FA stands firmly against all forms of prejudice, and we are committed to tackling homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia at every level of English football. We're striving to ensure that football at all levels is a welcoming, inclusive and safe environment for all. The FA also specifically referenced the subject of LGBTQ+ visibility at Euro 2020.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe